The night my husband collapsed was the kind of night families remember forever, some with grief, others with revelations they can never unsee. For me, it would become both. It began like any other Thursday, a late meeting, a rushed dinner, my daughter asking for help with her science project, and Mark pacing around the kitchen like a man who had something to confess but didn't have the courage to do it. I should have known something was wrong from the way he kept touching his phone, checking it so often it was practically an extension of his hand. But in marriage, routine blinds you. You learn to ignore the tiny fractures because acknowledging them means admitting the foundation might be cracking. At 9:36 p.m., Mark clutched his chest, sank to his knees, and collapsed. My daughter screamed. I grabbed the phone. And life suddenly shifted into a different gear, sharp, loud, merciless. The ambulance came fast. The paramedics worked with clinical urgency, speaking in short, clipped commands while wires and monitors wrapped around him like a mechanical cocoon. I followed behind them, heart pounding, mind spiraling. Not because I feared losing Mark, we hadn't been emotionally close in months, but because the unknown has a way of dragging old fears out of the shadows. At the hospital, time lost shape. Minutes blended into hours as I waited near the trauma bay, pacing, praying, bargaining with emotions I didn't want to feel. A nurse eventually came out and said, "Your husband's stable, Mrs. Ellison. You can see him now." I breathed out, relief mixed with confusion. "Is he awake?" I asked. The nurse hesitated. "He's with someone right now." My eyebrows pulled together. "Someone?" "A woman," she said carefully. "She claimed to be family." Family. The word hit like ice water down my spine. I walked down the hall with the nurse leading, each step heavy, deliberate, echoing like a countdown. When she opened the door, the fluorescent lights buzzed softly, casting a pale glow over the room. And there she was. A young woman. Pretty. Polished. Sitting beside Mark's bed, holding his hand like she belonged there. For a split second, the world blurred. My brain refused to process it. I looked at her fingers wrapped around his, her thumb stroking gently, intimately. Then at her purse on the chair, designer, expensive. Her jacket draped neatly. Her hair freshly styled. She had planned to be here. She looked up, startled when she saw me. Mark's eyes snapped open too, frantic, panicked, not from his medical emergency, but from the realization that the two worlds he had been juggling had just collided. The woman stood abruptly. "Oh, hi. I didn't know his wife would be here." His wife. She said it as if it were an inconvenient detail, an unexpected scheduling conflict. Mark struggled to sit up. "This isn't what it." "Don't," I said. Just one word. Cold, firm, steady. The kind of word that made even the nurse step back. The woman shifted nervously. I should go." "No," I said. "You should stay." Her eyes widened. "Excuse me?" "You showed up to the trauma wing holding my husband's hand," I said. "You don't get to leave until I get an explanation." She swallowed. "I'm his coworker. We were working late." "Working?" I repeated. "On what? CPR practice?" Mark groaned. "Please, let's not do this here." "You're right," I said. "We won't do this here." Then I looked at the woman. "We'll do it properly." Something in my voice made her step back. Not fear, respect. The kind women like her don't usually give wives like me. But she felt it. Dominance. Authority. The truth that she had entered the wrong battlefield unprepared. "I need your name," I said. She hesitated. "Now," I added. "Emily," she whispered. "Emily Ross." I memorized it instantly. "Emily," I said calmly, "you're going to walk out of this room and wait in the hallway." She looked at Mark, as if silently asking permission. That alone told me everything, how long this had been going on, how deeply she was entangled, How much of him she believed belonged to her. Mark didn't look at her. He didn't look at me. He looked at his blanket, as though he wanted to disappear inside it. I took a step closer to Emily. Go. She left without another word. When the door closed behind her, I turned to Mark. What is going on? He rubbed his temples. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, I said. You passed out with your mistress beside you. Even daytime TV couldn't write something this stupid. He winced. She's not my mistress. Then what is she? I asked. A volunteer handholder? A spiritual chest warmer? Because she was touching you like she's been doing it for months. He didn't respond. Silence. Thick. Damning. Say something, I demanded. He whispered, we're close. We're married, I snapped. That's supposed to mean something. He looked away. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. I didn't mean to find out at all, I shot back. He sighed, a pathetic, defeated sound. Let's just talk at home. No, I said. We talk now. He shook his head weakly. I don't have the energy. Funny, I said. You had the energy to cheat. His face crumpled. And then he said something that will live in infamy forever. Emily cares about me. I felt my heart beat slow, not with shock, but with clarity. That sentence was the purest confession a man could give. Not the cheating itself, but the emotional treason behind it. You're in love with her, I said. He didn't deny it. Not even for a second. I nodded, exhaling slowly. Okay. Mark frowned. Okay? Yes, I said. Because now I know what battle I'm fighting. He looked confused. He always looked confused when the woman he underestimated stopped playing nice. Mark, I said softly, this isn't going to end the way you think. And something in my tone finally scared him. Really scared him. Because he'd forgotten who I was. A strategist. A provider. A woman who built a life from the ground up and could burn it down just as easily. And one more thing. I was done being passive. Done forgiving. Done waiting. The truth wasn't a betrayal. The betrayal was thinking I wouldn't do anything with it. I opened the door and looked at Emily, who was anxiously pacing. We're not done, I told her. And the terror in her eyes was the first honest thing she'd shown me. Tomorrow, I promised myself, would be the day everything changed. But she didn't know. Tomorrow was the day she'd regret walking into that hospital room. And Mark? Tomorrow was the day he'd finally understand what real consequences feel like. Emily stood in the hallway trying to pretend she wasn't listening, but her eyes kept flicking toward the door every few seconds. I stepped out of the room, closing the door behind me with a soft click, the kind that doesn't slam but still feels like a sentence being delivered. She froze. Her hands twisted in front of her, her face pale as if she finally understood the gravity of what she'd walked into. Emily, I said, voice steady. We're going to talk. She nodded quickly. I know how this looks. You do? I asked. Because from where I was standing, it looked like you were auditioning for the role of wife number 2. She flinched. I'm not trying to replace you. You already tried, I said calmly. But let's skip the denial stage. I want facts. She swallowed hard. Okay. How long? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked down at her shoes, then at the wall, anywhere but at me. How long? I repeated. Her voice cracked. 9 months. I didn't react. Not outwardly. Inside, I felt a strange numb calm forming, like the air before a tornado, the quiet before everything breaks. 9 months, I said, tasting the words. So while I was planning our daughter's birthday party, you were planning hotel brunches? Her face reddened. It wasn't like that. It's exactly like that. She took a shaky breath. We didn't plan for this to happen. Mark and we connected. Connected? I echoed. Did you connect before or after he mentioned he had a wife and child? She looked at her feet. Silence. Cowardice. That's what I thought. A nurse walked by, sensing tension, but I gave her a small nod, letting her know everything was under control. It was. I was. For the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't confused or anxious. I was clear. And clarity in the wronged woman is the most dangerous weapon in the world. Emily whispered, he told me you two were basically done. That you were cold. Distant. He said you barely spoke. I let out a breathy, humorless laugh. Men always recycle the same excuses. It's like they read from a shared Google document. But let me be very clear, what Mark told you doesn't absolve you. He lied to you, and you believed him because you wanted to believe him. I didn't know he'd get sick, she said, voice shaking. And yet, here you were at the hospital before I even arrived, I replied. Lucky coincidence? She hesitated. Her eyes darted again. Who called you, Emily? She froze. Ah. There it was. The detail she didn't want to say. Who? Called. You. I repeated. She whispered it so faintly I almost didn't hear it. His mother. Of course. Of course Patricia had her fingerprints on this too. That woman couldn't resist puppeteering disaster. My mind twisted through years of red flags I dismissed, the way Patricia hated me for being financially independent, for being opinionated, for not needing validation. She'd always wanted Mark to be with someone she could mold like clay. Someone pliable. Someone grateful for scraps. Someone like Emily. When did she call you? I asked. Right after he collapsed, Emily murmured. She said Mark needed me. She said he wanted to see me. And you believed her? Emily nodded. I thought he needed support. And you thought that wasn't me? I asked softly. She winced. I didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't hurt me, I said. He did. You just assisted. Emily looked down again, wringing her hands. I should go. You should, I agreed. But before you leave, I want you to know something. She lifted her eyes. This isn't over. Not for Mark. Not for Patricia. And not for you. Her face paled. I'm not part of this war. You walked into the hospital holding a married man's hand, I said. You enlisted yourself. Emily blinked rapidly, then fled the hallway. I didn't watch her go. She wasn't the threat. She was just the symptom. The disease was still lying in a hospital bed pretending to be helpless. I went back inside. Mark looked up immediately, guilt swallowing his expression. What did she say? Enough, I replied. He swallowed. Please, don't make this worse. I'm not making anything worse, I said. I'm revealing what's already there. He covered his face with his hands. I never meant for things to fall apart. You didn't mean for me to find out, I corrected. That's different. He didn't respond. I pulled up a chair beside him. You and Emily have been together 9 months. He squeezed his eyes shut. It just happened. Did you fall and land in her? I asked dryly. He groaned. Please don't make jokes. Why not? I said. The situation is already pathetic. Humor is the only thing making it tolerable. He sighed. We grew close. She listens. She understands me. Because she doesn't know you, I snapped. People always seem perfect before you see them in the morning light. He shifted uncomfortably. I'm sorry. No, you're not, I said. You're sorry you got caught. He didn't deny it. There it was again, the truth he couldn't speak but couldn't hide. I leaned back, folding my arms. Does your mother know how long this was going on? She knew something, he admitted. Did she approve? He hesitated for several seconds. Too many seconds. Finally, she said Emily was better suited for me. I laughed. Loud, sharp, cutting. Of course she did. Patricia doesn't want a wife for you. She wants a pet. Mark flinched. She's not controlling. She just wants what's best. That sentence, I said quietly, is the anthem of every man raised by a tyrant. He glared at me weakly. You hate her. No, I corrected. She hates me. And she chose Emily because Emily worships any scrap of attention. He didn't argue. I leaned forward. Mark, do you understand what you did to our daughter? He froze. She saw you collapse, I continued. She cried all night. And the first thing she'll learn when she grows up is that her father brought another woman to her mother's hospital nightmare. He whispered, I didn't think about that. You never think, I said. You react. He looked small suddenly. Fragile. As if the weight of his choices finally pressed down on him. I lost myself, he whispered. I shook my head. No. You abandoned yourself long before you abandoned me. He didn't cry. Men like Mark don't cry when they break. They crumble silently, like buildings collapsing inward instead of outward. I stood. Rest. We'll talk tomorrow. He looked up panic-stricken. Tomorrow? About what? About consequences, I said. He flinched. I walked to the door. Oh, and Mark? He swallowed. Yes? Tomorrow, I said, I'm going to meet with a lawyer. And I want you to think long and hard about what you want to lose, your reputation, your finances, or your dignity. Because you're going to lose one of them. His breath caught. And one more thing, I added. Emily? She walked into your hospital room. But I'll be the one walking out of this marriage intact. His face collapsed. I didn't look back. As I left the hospital, the night air hit my skin like the first inhale after drowning. Cold. Clean. Awakening. And all I could think was, tomorrow wasn't just a conversation. Tomorrow was the beginning of the end. And the end? Would belong to me. The next morning, the house felt too quiet. Not peaceful, unnaturally still, like the air itself knew something poisonous had seeped beneath the floorboards. My daughter was at school, unaware of the emotional battlefield her father had opened. I sat in the kitchen with my coffee untouched, staring at the granite countertop as if it could answer the one question echoing in my mind. How many lies had I lived with? 9 months of Emily. 9 months of secrecy. 9 months of Patricia encouraging it. But something in Mark's face last night, something brittle and panicked, told me the betrayal didn't end with another woman. Men who lie with their hearts usually lie with their money too. My phone buzzed. Rachel, attorney. I'm at my office. Come now. We need to talk before your husband gets discharged. I grabbed my coat. The moment I walked in, Rachel locked the door behind me, a bad sign for whoever she was about to expose. She motioned for me to follow her into the conference room. You look like a woman who didn't sleep, she said. I didn't. Good, she replied. You'll need the adrenaline. She dropped a folder onto the table. Thick. Heavy. Dangerous. I pulled Mark's financial history for the last 12 months using the authorization you gave me. I braced myself. You were right, she said. The affair is just the appetizer. She opened the folder. Page after page of transactions stared back at me. Transfers. Purchases. Cash withdrawals. All small enough to avoid suspicion, but patterned enough to signal intent. Rachel tapped a page. This, she said, is Emily's rent payment. My breath stilled. He's been transferring money to her every month. Indirectly, through a prepaid account. She flipped another page. Hotel bookings. Gift receipts. A new MacBook. A necklace. All purchased with marital funds. The room tilted for a moment. Not from shock was too soft a word. This was revelation sharpened into a blade. Rachel continued, but the worst part isn't the money. It's this. She slid over a printed screenshot, an email thread between Mark and Patricia. The subject line. Moving forward with Plan B. My chest tightened. I read the emails. Patricia, she's too focused on work to notice. Emily is better for you. Softer. Easier to shape. Mark, I feel guilty. Patricia, guilt is weakness. You need a partner who listens, not one who challenges you. Another message. Patricia, once you establish separate accounts, we can shift funds to protect your future. Mark, will she notice? Patricia, she'll be too emotional to track numbers. The audacity. The arrogance. The stupidity. Rachel leaned back, arms crossed. They were planning to drain your accounts. I didn't blink. Of course they were. That's not all, Rachel said. She handed me a second folder. This is the hospital's internal log. Someone called emergency contacts and told them to list Emily as next of kin. Patricia. My jaw clenched. Rachel looked at me with admiration mixed with something like awe. You are handling this with a level of composure I don't see often. I'm past the point of emotional collapse, I said. That was last night. Now I'm in the phase where I build the weapon. Rachel smirked. Good. Because I have an idea. We're going to let Patricia think she still has control. And then we're going to flip the entire board on her. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Mark. I let it ring. He called again. And again. Finally, I answered. His voice was shaky. Can you pick me up from the hospital? Ask your girlfriend, I said. She left. My mom isn't answering. I need you. Hearing the desperation in his voice was almost satisfying. Almost. Fine, I said. I'm on my way. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You're going back into the lion's den? I'm going to gather the rest of the information I need, I said. He talks more when he's scared. She smiled. I love how your mind works. Mark was waiting in the lobby with a plastic bag of medications and a defeated slump in his shoulders. When he saw me, relief washed over him so visibly it almost embarrassed me. You came, he whispered. I'm a mother, I said. I don't have time to let you die. Even you. He winced. I deserve that. You deserve more than that, I said. Get in the car. He moved slowly, still physically weak, but spiritually weaker. Once he settled in the passenger seat, he said, I want to fix this. I let out a small laugh. With a nap and an apology? He stared ahead, silent. Mark, I said, Emily and Patricia aren't just your mistakes. They're your habits. He swallowed hard. I know. And I know I messed up. But hearing you talk last night, something broke inside me. No, I said. Something finally woke up. We drove in silence for a while. Then he whispered. Are you leaving me? That depends. On whether you tell me everything. Right now. He hesitated. Everything? Yes. He exhaled shakily. It started before Emily. My grip tightened on the wheel. Before? He nodded. Mom, she's always thought you were too strong. Too educated. Too successful. She said you emasculated me. That sounds like her. She kept pushing me to find someone more compatible. And when Emily joined the company, Mom kept saying she was sweet, kind, obedient, everything you weren't. Yes, I said. A pet. He looked down. Eventually. I started listening. That's what weak men do, I said. He didn't argue. And the money? I asked. He closed his eyes. She convinced me to set up separate accounts. Said you'd divorce me eventually and take everything. Projection, I said. She assumed I would do what SHE would do. He nodded. And the emails? I said, though I already knew the answer. Mom wrote most of them, he whispered. I just agreed. Coward. And Emily? I pressed. She thought I was unhappy. I told her things I shouldn't have. Stop, I said sharply. Emily was a symptom. Not the disease. He looked at me, confused. Patricia, I said. She's the disease. He nodded slowly. I want to fix this, he repeated softly. You will, I said. By helping me destroy the person who caused all of it. He stared at me. My mother? Yes, I said. His hands shook. She'll hate us. She already hates me, I replied. I'm offering you a chance to stop letting her ruin your life. He took a breath. What do you want me to do? Tell me everything she's planning. Everything she said. Every lie she told. For the next 20 minutes, he poured out secrets like blood from a wound, Emily, the emails, the money, the conversations Patricia had behind my back. Every sentence was another nail in Patricia's coffin. By the time he finished, he looked empty, drained, like a man finally freed from the prison he pretended was a home. I parked the car in front of our house. Mark, I said softly, you need to understand something. He turned to me. This isn't about revenge. This is about justice. And right now, justice requires one thing. He whispered, what? Distance. He blinked. What do you mean? You're sleeping in the guest room, I said. Until this is over. He nodded, devastated. And Mark? Yes? If you lie to me one more time about anything, I will burn everything you love down to the foundation. His breath caught. That's not a threat, I added. It's a certainty. He whispered, okay. I got out of the car, walked to the front door, and didn't wait for him. Because the woman he betrayed was gone. What stood in her place was someone far more dangerous. Someone Patricia should have never awakened. Tomorrow, the real war would begin. And Patricia? She had no idea that I already had the one weapon she couldn't fight. Her son's truth. By the next morning, the house felt like it no longer belonged to Mark. His presence in the guest room was nothing more than a shadow, the faint echo of a man who had handed his life over to someone else's manipulation. I didn't even think of him as my husband anymore. He was a participant in a story he no longer controlled, a narrative that had finally shifted in my favor. I woke up earlier than usual, not because I was anxious, but because clarity has its own kind of sunrise. I showered, dressed in my sharpest business suit, navy, structured, commanding, and tied my hair back into a clean, deliberate knot. Today wasn't about emotion. Today was execution. Rachel texted me. 9 a.m. my office. Bring the documents. And be ready to witness a downfall. I smirked. Ready? I'd been ready since the moment I saw Emily holding Mark's hand. When I walked into the kitchen, Mark was standing there with a mug of coffee he'd clearly made for himself. He looked exhausted, hair unkempt, eyes hollow, the weight of guilt pressing so hard into his shoulders he seemed shorter. He spoke softly. Do you want coffee? No. He swallowed. Are we meeting the lawyer today? I am. He winced. Can I come? I looked at him the way you look at someone you once loved but now recognize as a danger you survived. No, I said. Your involvement only matters after the paperwork is filed. He nodded, defeated. I picked up my bag and headed for the door. He whispered, I'm sorry. I didn't turn around. Good. Let that feeling grow. When guilt takes root in men like Mark, it grows like ivy, slow, clinging, suffocating. And I didn't plan to cut it down. Rachel greeted me at the conference table with 3 folders laid out like weapons. This, she said, tapping the first, is everything we're filing. Divorce, full custody request, financial misconduct complaint, and a protective clause regarding Patricia. I nodded. She tapped the second. This is the evidence package. The emails, the transactions, the conversations, your recordings, the hospital log, Emily's involvement, and the entire Plan B file. And the third? I asked. A slow smile spread across her face. That one, she said with satisfaction, is for the meeting. What meeting? I asked, even though a part of me already knew. The one Patricia requested this morning. I blinked. She asked to meet? Oh yes, Rachel replied. Apparently, Mark told her you were meeting with a lawyer, and she panicked. I smirked. Of course she did. She called the office demanding an urgent sit-down. Wants to clarify misunderstandings. Rachel mimicked the phrase with exaggerated politeness. What time? I asked. She'll be here in 20 minutes. 20 minutes until Patricia Ellison walked into my terrain thinking she still had a throne to sit on. Good. Let her walk in. Let her think she can talk her way out. Let her think anything at all. Because she had no idea that every lie, every manipulation, every poisonous seed she planted was about to snap back at her like a steel trap. Patricia arrived in her signature armor, pearls, a powder blue blazer, hair styled into a helmet that refused to move, and a smile that belonged on a politician hiding a scandal. Emily followed behind her like a ghost being dragged by an invisible leash. She looked terrified, eyes red, hair undone, nothing like the polished woman from the hospital. Seeing them both together almost made me laugh. Patricia marched into the room. We need to talk about this ridiculous legal drama you're creating. I raised one eyebrow. I'm creating? Rachel gestured to the table. Please sit. Patricia ignored her. I understand you're upset, she said, turning toward me, but marriages go through challenges. Mark made mistakes. But you and I can come to an arrangement. No, I said. She blinked. Excuse me? I said no. Her lips tightened. You don't get to say no. I am trying to salvage your family's reputation. That reputation, I said calmly, was destroyed the minute you called Emily to the hospital instead of me. Emily winced. Patricia shot her a venomous glare, then looked back at me. You're being dramatic. Rachel cleared her throat. Mrs. Ellison, before this meeting continues, I'm obligated to inform you that my client is recording this conversation. Patricia's face paled for a second, but then she straightened. I have nothing to hide. Rachel pressed a button on her phone. A soft chime confirmed recording. Excellent, Rachel said. Let's begin. I looked at Patricia, not with anger, but with a cold, precise patience. You spent months encouraging your son to cheat, I said. That is not. You coached him to open separate accounts. No, I simply. You told him I would divorce him and take everything. That is. You asked Emily to be at the hospital. Patricia slammed her purse onto the table. I was trying to protect him. I tilted my head. From his wife? She flinched. You manipulative witch, she hissed. You turned my son against me. No, I said. You did. Rachel slid the email printouts across the table. Patricia's eyes scanned the pages. Her face blanched, then reddened, then trembled. These were private. You sent them from Mark's marital home, Rachel said. Legally, not private. Emily softly whispered, Patricia, you told me he was getting divorced next month. Patricia's head jerked toward her. Shut your mouth. Emily recoiled. I leaned back. This is fascinating. Rachel adjusted her glasses. Mrs. Ellison, in addition to orchestrating an affair, you actively attempted financial misconduct, parental interference, and emotional sabotage. All while exploiting your son. That is absurd, Patricia snapped. Rachel pulled out one last paper. Is this your signature? Patricia froze. What is that? The lease agreement for Emily's apartment, Rachel said. You co-signed it. Emily gasped softly. You told me he signed it. Patricia turned to her sharply. You ungrateful brat. I spoke gently. So let me summarize. Patricia recruited Emily. Groomed her. Funded her. Manipulated her. All to replace me. Emily burst into tears. Rachel leaned forward. Mrs. Ellison, let me be clear, if this goes to court, you will be held financially liable, charged with interference, and barred from contact. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. He needs me. No, I said softly. He needs therapy. The room went silent. Then Patricia's face twisted into something unhinged. He will never choose you over me. Never. I smiled slowly. He already did. Her fury flickered, uncertain now, unstable. I picked up my phone and pressed play. Mark's voice filled the room. Mom messed everything up. I want to fix it. I'll tell you everything she planned. Patricia went still. Completely still. It was the look of a tyrant realizing the kingdom had voted her out. You recorded him? She whispered. No, I said. He volunteered it. Patricia stumbled backward, collapsing into the chair. Her breathing quickened. Her hands shook. She looked small for the first time since I'd met her. Rachel closed the folder. Mrs. Ellison, unless you want charges, you will cease contact with my client. You will stay away from her child. And you will not interfere in the divorce. If you violate any of this, we file. Patricia's voice cracked. Please, he's all I have. No, I said. You had him. You lost him. We're just confirming it. Emily sobbed into her hands. Patricia whispered, what happens now? I stood. Now? You get to live with the consequences. She stared at me like a woman who'd never been confronted before. Good. She deserved the shock. And Mark, she whispered. Mark, I said, will live with the choices he made. But I won't let him drag me down with him. I grabbed the folder, straightened my jacket, and turned toward the door. Emily choked out, I'm sorry. I paused. I believe you, I said. But your apology doesn't fix anything. She nodded, defeated. Patricia whispered, please don't take my son. I looked at her gently, almost kindly. I'm not taking anything from you, I said. I'm just not giving you the power you abused. And with that, I walked out. Rachel followed me into the hallway, smiling like she'd just watched a queen reclaim her throne. You did it, she said. No, I corrected. I ended it. As the elevator doors closed, I felt something inside me settle, finally. Fully. Irrevocably. Peace. Not the soft kind. The victorious kind. The kind earned through fire. The marriage was over. The lies were exposed. The manipulators destroyed. The truth on record. The future mine again. And for the first time in a long time, I whispered,